Exactly. Good morning. My name is Hugh Williams, and I'm the Director of Public Affairs for the Canadian Automobile Dealers Association. CADA is the national trade association representing franchised automobile dealers across the country. We have 3,500 car dealers in virtually every community across the country, and our dealers collectively represent over 140,000 employees from coast to coast. Last year, across the country, we sold 1.6 million new vehicles and serviced millions of more Canadians through our service departments and, of course, our used departments. I'm here on Parliament Hill today to formally announce that the Canadian Automobile Dealers Association will be supporting the framework for Canada's first motor fuel consumption regulations that were announced by the Honourable Lawrence Cannon, Minister of Transport, Infrastructure and Communities, earlier this year on January 2008. Auto dealers are very supportive of the federal government's move to regulate fuel consumption for new cars and trucks by 2011. A provincial patchwork of fuel economy regulations would be a nightmare not just for dealers, but for manufacturers, and more importantly, it would be a nightmare for consumers across the country. This federal move to put in tough new standards that are in line with the Memorandum of Understanding that the automobile industry has already signed with the federal government. And this Memorandum of Understanding has reduced greenhouse gases and will reduce greenhouse gases by a total of 5.3 megatons by 2010. So we're on track, we're making progress, and are ready to accept the new fuel economy regulations. I should point out as well that in the United States, U.S. Congress has set ambitious targets for fuel economy regulations. The ambitious target of 35 miles per gallon, or in Canadian terms, 6.7 liters per kilometer for the average fuel economy for vehicles sold by 2020 is very aggressive. To put it in mind for you, what you have to think about is today's smallest, most compact vehicles represent the most fuel economy in the class. And if you think of the year 2020, the largest vehicles or any vehicle sold across the country will have to meet that same standard of today's smallest, most fuel efficient vehicles. This is a historic standard. It's going to be a stretch for the auto industry to meet this goal, but we're working hard on the technology to make that a reality. CADA is therefore highlighting the need for Canada's plan to harmonize with the dominant North American standard. Any disharmony will cause problems for the Canadian marketplace. First of all, there will be increased new vehicle costs for consumers as they'll be slow to uptake new, more fuel-efficient technologies that are overall good for the environment. Our economists have highlighted that there's a discount effect in which consumers are cautious to adopt new technology even though there's going to be longer-term savings. So we have to be conscious of price so that people continue to upgrade into newer, more fuel-efficient, cleaner vehicles. Also, there's a concern over limited family choice. Families, farmers, and small businesses need to have a good product mix to meet their needs ongoing in Canada. We're also concerned about limited availability of commercially required vehicles, from full-size pickups to trucks and vans that are important for the Canadian marketplace. Any disharmony, of course, would also lead to a shift in used vehicles or nearly new imports. Again, not a move that's good for the economy or overall a move that would help the environment. We're also concerned regarding emissions of older vehicles. I'll speak more about that later, but any plan has to take into account that today's vehicles have the highest safety standards in the world and also have the highest emission standards of any jurisdiction in the world. Canadian consumers are well served by the current framework, and the federal government's move to take it up another level for 2011 through 2020 is a positive move for our community. Overall, we have to be concerned about any disharmony as it would reduce product offerings available to the Canadian marketplace. CADA continues to advocate a broad policy approach. Fuel economy is part of the solution, but it's not the only part of the solution. We need appropriate fuel quality standards here in Canada. We need fuel pricing that's in line with our objectives, and we need alternative fuels to be brought forward to the marketplace. This includes more diverse fueling infrastructure and government's leadership in the area of fleet vehicles. And finally, an important piece of the puzzle is consumer education. The Canadian auto dealers have been working very hard to educate consumers about the most environmentally intelligent choices for each of the vehicle classes across the country. Every year we host, in combination with the Government of Canada, special awards that highlight the best vehicles in 10 vehicle classes so consumers can make educated choices. We also work hard to educate consumers about the importance of proper tire inflation. People have to know that by having tires inflated properly, you'll improve your fuel economy. And of course, driving habits are an important part of the equation that we're talking to consumers about on a daily basis in terms of our dealerships. Canadians already drive more fuel-efficient vehicles than Americans do. In fact, if you look at the passenger vehicle market, by ratio, half of our vehicles in Canada are either in the compact or subcompact category. That's twice as many by ratio as compared to the United States. And if you look at the SUV segment by ratio, Americans are buying twice as many SUVs as the Canadian marketplace does as a percentage of our overall market. So given the combination that Canadians are already making more responsible environmental choices and the fact that, let's face it, we have a tougher climate here in Canada, we have to have a workable solution for the Canadian marketplace. Anybody who's driven around Ottawa in the last week or anywhere throughout Ontario knows the value of having four-wheel drive. We live in a climate that is very harsh on vehicles, and we have to make sure that consumers have the right choice of those vehicles available. Today, I also want to spend a little bit of time highlighting the need to get older vehicles off the road. One 1987 model year vehicle creates 37 times the regulated emissions or smog than a new vehicle. Picture that another way. If you're driving a modern vehicle and you pull up next to a 1987 Volvo or Toyota or Ford, that vehicle, the older vehicle next to you, will be creating as much pollution as 37 new vehicles. This is a dramatic problem that needs to be addressed urgently in Canada. We've got over 1 million pre-1987 vehicles on the road. The government has announced a program to accelerate the scrappage of these older vehicles, but we have to move faster to make that program a reality and in partnership with the private sector. Maintenant, quelques mots en français. Bonjour, mon nom est Hugh Williams, directeur des affaires publiques pour la Corporation des associations de détaillants d'automobiles. Cada est l'association nationale des concessionnaires qui vendent des voitures et des camions neufs. Les quelques 3500 concessionnaires représentent un secteur clé de l'économie canadienne. Cada appuiera le cadre du premier règlement au Canada sur la consommation de carburant des véhicules motorisés annoncé par Lawrence Cannon, ministre des Transports, en janvier 2008. Le détaillant d'automobile appuie à fond la proposition du gouvernement fédéral de réglementer la consommation de carburant des voitures et des camionnettes neuves à partir de l'année modèle 2011. Un ensemble de mesures provinciales d'experts sur la consommation de carburant sera un cauchemar pour les détaillants, un cauchemar pour les constructeurs et un cauchemar pour les consommateurs canadiens. Le Congrès des États-Unis s'est fixé un objectif ambitieux pour la consommation moyenne de carburant, soit 6,7 litres aux 100 km pour les véhicules qui seront vendus en 2020. Le respect de cette norme qui fera date dans l'histoire exigerait un gros effort de la partie de l'industrie automobile. Le Cada soulignait donc la nécessité d'harmoniser le plan du Canada avec la norme principale en Amérique du Nord. Une absence aura la conséquence sévère pour l'économie canadienne et surtout pour le consommateur canadien. Merci, and now if there's any questions, I'd be happy